Hey, it's Tom from Tom's Toons. Today I'm going to take you through a lower unit lube change on a Generation 1 Evinrude E-TEC. This motor happens to be on a Tritoon. It's a 250 HO. Cool fact, that means it's putting out about 275 horsepower. This thing gets up and goes. So this motor, it's going to be really similar in terms of the oil change procedure on any E-TEC Generation 1 style. These were always sold not needing lube changes if you're using the right gear lube, which is this stuff right here. This is Johnson Evinrude brand. If you're using the right gear lube, you shouldn't have to change the lower unit lube, but every 3 seasons or every 300 hours. Here's my take on that. I'm gonna change it every season because that's what I think is best. And I wanna make sure there's no water in there and I'm not gonna have problems down the road. So it's up to you. That's how they were always sold. I used to sell these things in my prior job. And you know what? You can do what you want, but I'm gonna change it every season. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get to draining this to start. So what we have here are 2 machine screws. They're an Allen head. There's one on top and we can call that our fill or our vent. It kind of does both. And then we have our drain down here. If you've watched our other videos, you've seen us do this on different 4-strokes and other motors, but this is the first time we've done an Evinrude E-TEC on our channel. The way that this works is I'm gonna go ahead and pull the bottom plug first. That's just gonna keep things cleaner for me. If I pull this top one, that's gonna allow air to enter the top, and when I pull the bottom, it's just gonna explode out, spray everywhere, maybe make a mess. Maybe I'll drop the machine screw in my oil pan. I gotta chase it down and find it. So I've got a nice big oil pan underneath here. It is gonna project out a little bit when I first get it going. So I'm gonna go ahead and use my Allen key here and get this loosened up and the bottom plug out. Got a 5/32 Allen head wrench. A 4mm fits in there really nice and snug too. If there's play, I would definitely recommend finding the snuggest fit because those can strip out and that's the last thing we want to do. This motor is around a year 2014. This has been done a few times, so I'm gonna play it safe actually and use my 4mm because the fit is much more snug and I don't feel like I'm gonna strip it out. So I'm just gonna go ahead, back this bottom one out. As soon as I can get my fingers on it, I prefer to just loosen it the rest of the way with my fingers if I can help it. And what you're gonna see when I first pull this out, we're not gonna get a crazy ton of lube pouring out because what happens is a vacuum is created. Once I pull this top machine screw out, then it'll release that vacuum and it'll allow it to drain out. I don't know if vacuum is the proper term, but I think that's how I was taught it. So you'll see when we fill it, that we put the top screw in first and then pull the bottom out because that's going to do the exact same thing, create a vacuum to where it can't drain so fast. But we'll get to that point in a second here. It's got a little magnet on the end. You can always check that to see if you picked up any metal shavings from your lower unit. As you can see here, it's barely draining right now. But watch, when I get this top machine screw cracked. As soon as that's released, look at how fast that fluid comes out. Now we've got a steady stream pouring down and we're gonna just let this sit. I've actually got to run to the parts store. We're gonna go ahead and grab some new seals for those machine screws so we make sure that we're sealed up well when we put them back in with the new lube. The good news here is this lube is pretty darn clear still. So no water in it, it's not milky at all. I like the way that looks, but it is actually in really good shape. I still recommend change it every year, but this is in good shape. This is a good sign. So we'll let it keep draining. It's got to drain a couple quarts and then we'll get to filling back up. All right, just went and grabbed the new seals or O-rings. The part number is right here, 0311598. That's an OEM Evinrude part. So again, 0311598. That is for this 250 HO. You'd have to verify that this would fit your motor if you're working on an E-TEC as well. So we'll go ahead and slide those new seals on, just so they're ready to rock and roll. In my little kit of lower unit stuff, I've got a couple different lube pumps. So we're gonna get the one that fits, basically this will fit Mercury, Evinrude, those types of lower units. And my other one would fit our Japanese makes, Honda, Tohatsu, Yamaha, Suzuki. I'm gonna pump what's in this out because this is Merc lube. So we'll hook this into our quart of lower unit lube, pump just this little bit out, and then we'll get to filling. And you can buy, actually at the local marina, there was a kit that has the pump and lube all in one. So keep that in mind. You can purchase this if you don't have a pump on hand. You can just purchase the whole kit with the quart of lube as well. So I'm just gonna give it a couple pumps to get that Mercury lube out. And as soon as my Pro Lube gets to where it's coming out, we're gonna go ahead and just thread this fitting right into the lower unit. Get that in snug, and I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna pump for a while. So I've got a couple quarts, I gotta empty this one. It's gonna take, I think it was like 40 or 41 ounces of fluid. So we've got 2 quarts, 32 ounces in a quart. So it's gonna take almost 2, 1.5 or so. But I'm gonna pump essentially until I see gear lube come out of this top, this vent, or fill, whatever you wanna call it. That's gonna indicate that I've filled my lower unit, I've got all my gears covered, and it's gonna come out here when I've got enough in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and pump until I see that come out the top. The reason we do this, instead of just putting a plug in the bottom and filling, this is gonna make sure there's no air bubbles or air built up in here. So by pushing fluid in from the bottom, the air is gonna rise, bubble to the top, and that way I won't have to worry about getting a lack of lube or a big air bubble in there. That's gonna make sure that we have lubrication to that lower unit. We're gonna go ahead and hook into our second quart. And don't worry if you get a little bit of air bubbles, they're gonna work their way to the top. So when I switch over here, there's likely gonna be a little bit of air bubbles from finishing the one bottle, switching to the next. We're gonna keep going. Any of those air bubbles are gonna work their way out to the top. I'm just gonna keep pumping now. Should take about another half quart and we'll be filled and we'll start seeing it come out the top. And there we go. As I pump from the bottom, you can see it coming out that top hole. So I like to just let it sit a second, let any air bubbles come up, give it a couple gentle squeezes, get some where it's just nice, solid lube coming out. That looks really good. Here's the thing that confuses a lot of people, or if you've never done this, you might look at it and say, what sense does that make? But what we're gonna do first is plug the top. So I'm gonna plug that top, that fill or vent. I'm gonna go ahead and put that plug all the way in here. We're gonna go ahead and get that in, snug it down. And what that's gonna do, that's gonna create that vacuum for us so that when I pull my lube fitting out, I'm gonna be able to have a little bit of time to get my drain plug in. So that just slows it. It's gonna drip a little bit. That's okay, but it's gonna slow it down at least to where I'm not losing a ton of lube. And you're gonna lose a little bit, it happens, but that's just gonna limit the amount that can flow out. So when it's loose, I'm gonna pull it out and I'm gonna put my plug in. So we lost a teeny bit of lube, not the end of the world. We'll go ahead and get that tightened in with the Allen wrench. And what I like to do is get everything cleaned up, get my hands nice and clean so they're not so slippery. And I like to come back and tighten these down one more time. Just make sure they're seated in nice and tight so no water can get in there. And that's it. That's an E-TEC 250 HO lower unit lube changed. That's the high performance gear lube from Johnson Evinrude. That's what this would call for. And again, like I mentioned, you can do this every 3 years per the manufacturer specs, but I like to play it safe. We'll change it every year, keep an eye on things. And again, those seals were at Johnson Evinrude part 598. Thank you so much for watching. Check out our discount codes in the description, pontoonstuff.com, as well as Brunt Workwear. We've got coupon codes, save you money, and it helps our channel out. Click that subscribe button to see more videos like this as we release them, and check out all of our playlists and videos that we have up. I think over 300 now on our channel of how to, just about everything to do with your pontoon boat, and quite a few motor videos as well.